The calendar, How Luisa Received the Gift, from the Book of Heaven Volume 1, by Luisa Piccarreta. Part 13. The longed-for day finally arrived, after not a little suffering. I remember that it was almost 1 year that I had been continuously in bed. It was the day of the purity of Mary Most Holy. On the night before that day, my lover Jesus made himself seen all festive. He drew near me, took my heart in his hands, and he looked at it over and over again. He dusted it, and then he gave it back to me. Then he took a garment of immense beauty, whose background seemed to be a surface of gold streaked with various colors, and he clothed me with that garment. Then he took 2 gems, as if they were earrings, and he bejeweled my ears. Then he adorned my neck and my arms, and surrounded my forehead with a crown of immense value, all enriched with precious stones and gems, all refulgent with light. And it seemed to me that those lights were as many voices which resounded among themselves, speaking in clear notes of the beauty, the power, the fortitude, and of all the other virtues of my spouse Jesus. Who can tell what I comprehended, and in what sea of consolation my soul was swimming? It is impossible to say it. Now, while he was crowning my forehead, Jesus told me, "Most sweet spouse, I place this crown upon you so that nothing may be missing in order to make you worthy of being my spouse, but then, after our wedding is finished, I will take it with me to heaven, to keep it for you at the moment of your death." Finally, he took a veil and covered me completely with it, from head to foot, and he left me in that way. Ah! It seemed to me that there was a great meaning in that veil, because the demons, in seeing me all covered with that veil, were so frightened and had such fear of me, that they fled, terrified. The very angels were around me with such veneration, that I myself was confused and all full of blushing. On the morning of the aforementioned day, Jesus made himself seen again all affable, sweet and majestic, together with his most holy mother and Saint Catherine. First, the angels sang a hymn, while Saint Catherine assisted me. Mama took my hand, and Jesus put the ring on my finger. Then, we embraced and he kissed me, and so did Mama also. Then we had a conversation, all of love. Jesus told me of the great love he had for me, and I also told him of the love I had for him. The Most Holy Virgin made me comprehend the great grace I had received, and the correspondence with which I was to correspond to the love of Jesus. My spouse Jesus gave me new rules in order to live more perfectly, but since it has been a long time, I don't remember them so well, therefore I will skip them. And so it ended, for that day. Who can tell the finesses of love that Jesus made to my soul? They were such and so many that it is impossible to describe them, but I will try to say the little I remember. Sometimes, carrying me with him, he would take me to paradise, and there I could listen to the canticles of the blessed, and I could see the divinity, the different choirs of angels, the orders of the saints, all immersed in the divinity of God, absorbed, identified with it. It seemed to me that there were many lights around the throne, which were more brilliant than the sun, and these lights displayed in clear notes all the virtues and the attributes of God. By reflecting themselves in one of these lights, the blessed would remain enraptured, in such a way that they could not arrive at penetrating the whole immensity of that light. Therefore they would move to a second light, without understanding all the depth of the first one. So, the blessed in heaven cannot comprehend God perfectly, because the immensity, the greatness, the sanctity of God is such, that a created mind cannot comprehend an uncreated being. Now, it seemed to me that by reflecting themselves in these lights, the blessed would come to participate in the virtues of these lights. Therefore, in heaven, the soul resembles God, with this difference, that God is that immense sun, while the soul is a little sun. But who can say all that can be understood in that blessed dwelling? It is impossible to do it while the soul is in this prison of the body. While one can feel something in the mind, the lips do not find the terms to express it. It seems to me that it is like a child who begins to babble. He would like to say many upon many things, but in the end he remains without being able to say even one clear word. Therefore I stop here, without going any further. I will just say that sometimes, while finding myself in that blessed fatherland, I would be strolling together with Jesus in the midst of the choirs of angels and the saints, and since I was newly espoused, all the blessed would unite together to participate in the joys of our marriage. It seemed to me that they would forget their own contentments to occupy themselves with ours, and sometimes Jesus would show me to the saints, saying to them, "See this soul, she is a triumph of my love has surpassed everything in her." Other times, then, he would make me stay at the place which was going to be mine, and he would say to me, "Here is your place, no one can take it away from you." And at times I would reach the point of believing that I was no longer going to come back to earth, but in one simple instant I would find myself locked up in the wall of this body. Who can tell how so very bitter this returning would be for me? It seemed to me that in going from the things of heaven to the things of this earth, everything was rotten, insipid, bothering. The things which delighted others so much, were bitter for me. The people most dear, most distinguished, such that others would do, who knows what, in order to be with them, were indifferent to me, and also bothering. Only by looking at them as images of God, did I seem to be able to bear them. But my soul had lost any satisfaction, nothing would bring to it the slightest contentment, and the pain I felt was such, that I would do nothing but cry and lament to my beloved Jesus. Ah, my heart lived restless, amid continuous yearnings and desires. I felt it more in heaven than on earth. I felt in my interior something that consumed me continuously, so bitter and painful it was for me having to continue to live. But the obedience almost put a brake on these pains of mine, commanding me in an absolute way not to desire to die, since, when the confessor would give me the obedience, only then was I to die. So, in order to do the holy obedience, I would do as much as I could so as not to think about it, because in my interior there was a continuous ejaculation of desires of wanting to go. So, for the most part, my heart calmed down, but not completely. I confess the truth, I was very deficient in this, but what could I do? I could not restrain myself, it was a true martyrdom for me. My benign Jesus would say to me, "Calm yourself, what is it that makes you desire heaven so much?" I would say to him, "It is that I want to be always united with you. My soul can no longer bear being separated from you, not just for one day, but not even for a moment. Therefore I want to come at any cost." "Well then," he would say to me, "if it is because of me, I want to make you content, I will come and stay with you." Then I would say to him, "But then you leave me, and I lose sight of you, while in heaven it is not so. There, I could never lose sight of you." Sometimes, Jesus also wanted to play jokes, and this is how, while I would be amid these yearnings, he would come, all hurriedly, and would say to me, "Do you want to come?" And I would say to him, "Where?" And he, "To heaven." And I, "You really mean that?" And he, "But hurry, come, do not delay." And I, "Well then, let's go, but I fear you want to make fun of me." And Jesus, "No, no, I really want to take you with me." And while he would say this, I would feel my soul go out of the body, and together with Jesus, I would set off for heaven. Oh, how happy I would be then, thinking of getting to leave the earth. Life seemed to be asleep to me, and suffering seemed very little. As we would reach a high point of heaven, I would hear the singing of the blessed. I would solicit Jesus to introduce me quickly into that blessed dwelling, but Jesus would begin to slow down. In my interior I would start to suspect that it wasn't true. Who knows, I would say, if this is not a joke that he has played on me? Every now and then, I would say to him, "My Jesus, dear, hurry up." And he would say to me, "Wait a little longer, let us go down on earth again. See, out there is a sinner who is about to be lost. Let us go, who knows whether he might convert. Let us pray together to the Eternal Father, that he may use mercy on him. Don't you want him to be saved? Are you not ready to suffer any pain for the salvation of one soul alone?" And I, "Yes, anything you want me to suffer, I am ready, as long as you save him." So we would go to that sinner, we would try to convince him. We would place the most powerful reasons before his mind to make him surrender, but in vain. Then, all afflicted, Jesus would say to me, "My spouse, return into your body once again, take upon yourself the pains destined to him." In this way, being appeased, the divine justice will use mercy on him. You have seen it, words have not shaken him, and not even reasons. There is nothing left but pains, which are the most powerful means in order to satisfy justice and to make the sinner surrender. So he would bring me once again into my body. Who can tell the sufferings I would receive? Only the Lord knows, who has been the witness of it. After a few days, then, he would make me see that soul, converted and saved. Oh, how happy was Jesus, and I as well. Who can tell how many times Jesus played these jokes? When we would reach the point of entering, and sometimes even after entering, he would say that he had not let me have the obedience from the confessor, and therefore I should go back to earth. And I would say to him, as long as I was with the confessor, I was obliged to obey him, but now that I am with you, I am supposed to obey you, because you are the first among all. And Jesus would say to me, "No, no, I want you to obey the confessor." Then, not to make it too long, now with one pretext, now with another, he would make me go back on earth. Those jokes were very painful for me. It is enough to say that I became impertinent, so much so, that in order to chastise my impertinences, the Lord no longer allowed these jokes so often. I had spent about 3 years in this state already described, continuing to remain in bed, when one morning Jesus made me understand that he wanted to renew the marriage, not on earth, as the first time, but in heaven, in the presence of the whole celestial court, and that I should remain prepared for a grace so great. I did as much as I could in order to dispose myself, but since I am so miserable and insufficient in doing any shadow of good, the hand of the divine Maker was needed in order to dispose me, because, by myself, I would never have managed to purify my soul.